Well, g'day folks. Welcome back to Das Customs, the home of the slammed Volkswagen. And I had a great weekend, I've got to say. Me and a bunch of the boys, the Down Under Dubs crew, we went out to Cooley Rocks. If you want to see what that was like, check out my last video. You'll see, some really cool V-dubs and other amazing cars at Cooley Rocks. It's a very, very big car show on the Gold Coast here. Been going for a long time. They basically shut the whole town down for a few days, and the streets are just packed with cars. All kinds. I mean, we're talking cars that are worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to cars that I built in my backyard, So, it was a very, very cool event. And just a great weekend hanging out with great fellas. We all kind of have a passion for the V-dubs and also a passion for just the Volkswagen community. Help each other out, and it's a great time to just tell some stories and shoot the breeze and all that kind of stuff. And it also gives me inspiration to just kind of get on with my projects and actually, make something happen. So I'm back, today's Sunday. The show was yesterday, Saturday. And actually it's still going on today. It's a few days of it. So, we only went for one day. I got tomorrow off. It's a public holiday, thanks to the King. The grand old King of England, Charles. Thank you, Charles, for giving me a public holiday. So we're having a day off, and what better way to spend that than working on my cars. So the previous episode to that was working on this vehicle back here. Car that we're calling the 50 Shades. One thing I noticed on that car show was that people like colours on their cars, and somehow I just haven't quite got that bug yet. I like grey. I like black, grey, black. As Henry Ford once said, you can have any colour you want as long as it's black. So I seem to be the 50 Shades. So this is the 50 Shades, and I've got it mounted on its pan. You would have seen the episode of me, or a couple of episodes of me building this floor pan. And it fits, well enough, it fits. But it's got problems. And they're not major problems, nothing we can't overcome. It's just a matter of tinkering and trying to get stuff right. So today, I've mounted up some guards. And there's good news and there's bad news. Let's pull this car out and just see if we can't, get it to show you guys what we're doing. Alrighty, so this is basically, how this car sits now. And of course, I'm trying to build something that actually drives and handles. So there's only a certain amount of low you can go and still have a properly driving car that's just not going to, collide on everything. The rubber rake on this thing's pretty wild, and it's not even a rubber rake, it's a wheel rake. So I've got 18s in the back and 15s in the front. Which, I think I'm okay with that. It looked really good when it was on the Volksrod. Doesn't fill the guards on this car perfectly. Look, it's not perfect in proportion, which has kind of got me a little, I felt like it sat better when it was on the air ride pan. The thing is really, I guess, when it was on the air ride pan, I couldn't even get those front guards to fit. They were hitting the headlight bucket. So somehow that's changed, even though everything seems to be, I guess it was when it was sitting very low. The good news is with this pan is that, let me see if I can set you up. I seem to have steerability. And I reckon I could even come down, a bit on that and still be able to steer the thing. There is a little way it can come down. The main issue I'm having at the moment is the bulkhead at the front seems to be, I need to flare out the lip or something. It's just kind of catching on this bulkhead, only by not much, right here. So I need to sort that out, so I can actually go, sit down a bit further. It'll come down probably about 1 inch on that, which is perfect. The back is sitting down. That's where it needs to sit. It's actually growing on me. It was a little, I feel like I've got a little bit of width I could come out on those wheels. I'd love to come down 1 inch. I don't like being able to see air above the tyre from any angle, and I'd love that to be down to here, but I'm maxed out on my the Mendiola shock setup. I think I know how to bring it out a little bit, so maybe I'll work on that first, just trying to get the position out correct, and then I'll probably jack up the front and just massage that front lip out a little bit so it wants to go down, that in there. But overall, pretty happy with it. It's got that look. It's got that kind of, that race car look. It seems like these guards come just straight back around, and those guards, they still have a bit of forward on them. Still kind of come forward. And I guess I'm wondering at this stage what I'm going for with this car. I have another set of guards, which were going to be on the Ute, which I definitely wasn't going to use on there, which are those aero guards. And will they look better on this car? I mean, they might. At this stage, anything's up for grabs. I guess I should try and test fit one of those and see which one I like the look of better before I go forward. This side's still open, obviously, so I can do that. The rear guards, I'm fairly happy with the fit. You remember in a previous episode, I actually widened, had to spread the rear of them to fit, and I've got room to come out a little, and I can do that. That tyre's sitting fairly straight up and down, a little bit of inward camber. There is a camber adjustment in that, which I can play with as well. The good news is, obviously, by putting it on this pan, I don't have the issue of hitting the firewall anymore, which is great. So let's just start pulling things back apart a little bit and just see if we can't get it to sit a little better before I get too far ahead of myself. Well, I realized I still had this much of adjustment in that spring, the rear shock. So I gave it everything. And I also, played with the camber. There's a camber adjustment in these. It's a elliptical washer that goes right where the heim joint kind of bolts into where the old spring used to be. And it's definitely, there's a little bush that, I'll show you on the next one when I do it. There's a little bush that goes in kind of in front of the bearing, in between the bearing and the hub, I guess you'd call it, the kind of disc rotor hub thing. And by putting that in and doing, that, I feel like I'm there. Like I'm so close to being where I want to be. I mean, obviously in a low car, in a slammed car, I wouldn't want to see the top of that rim. I'd be trying to, get in even lower than that. But in this instance, another inch would be nice. Another inch would be perfect. But I don't think I'm going to get it. I think that's about all I've got. Maybe with a bit of weight in there, it might come down a little more. The body is hard down, so I don't have any room to come down there. I think that's basically where we're at. And I think that'll do me for now. I'll show you the other side, how I did that. And then I guess after that, we'll trial fit these other front guards and see what you guys reckon. See if they're going to do the car justice. I don't know. There's something about the spacing of that tyre and wheel on that guard that's just not quite doing it for me. Whereas you look on, wow, this is raised at the moment, but it seems to just be a better flow in these, the real genuine guards than that guard. It's like those guards are kind of pushed forward. Look, let's just set up the other side, the wheel on the other side, see if I can get the disc brakes hooked back on. I'm going to have to reconfigure how those brakes go back together to make them fit. And there is still some camber in that wheel. So obviously, in our slammed cars, that's what we're looking at. Major camber. We're talking like on the back wheel. IRS has less. But you still want a little bit. You don't want to be, going the opposite way. And if I put a straight edge and a level on there, you can see my bubble. Can you see that bubble? I'm still way up that side of the line. So this is just a rough way of doing it. I do have an app on my phone, but if I pull that bubble so it's in the middle, I've got about 10 mil. And I can make that more if I want to. Let's just see how we roll for now. I'll leave it kind of like that for now. There's probably optimal amounts of camber in the rear, and I'll research that later and figure that out. It is adjustable on this car, so I can do that. But for now, I've just kind of got it a little bit off, sitting up and down, which I'm happy with. Let's have a look at this side, and I'll kind of go through the process of what I just did, and then maybe we'll bolt the guard up there as well, and then I'll fit the other kind of guard onto this front and see if I can't get this thing just to sit down that little bit more how I want it to. And then I've got to load up all the doors, the bonnet. Actually, not the bonnet, I'm going to use that bonnet there, but the doors and the deck lid, they're going to get sandblasted. I've had a couple of minor issues in this paint, and I just don't want to risk it on the rest of the panels. So, and then of course the guards are going off to get painted as well. I've got another show coming up in 5 weeks. Would this car be driving by then? Could it be driving in 5 weeks? I mean, it could be if I had 5 weeks of no work. But let's see. Look, we'll aim for it and see how we go. All right, I'm going to do the other side, and I guess I'll show you guys what I'm doing over there, and we can kind of, have a bit of a play with it. All right, so can you see in there? That's the camber adjustment on this thing, and by winding these holes up or down, you can, I don't know, I can't figure out how it works, I don't know, but it does. It basically makes the wheels, do this. It's science and stuff, I guess. But, and also you can see on this shock, I do have a little bit of adjustment here. The problem is, no, I'm clearing there. I thought I was hitting on that, but I'm not. There is clearance there, so I just need to wind that up, get it the maximum I can. Like this is the lock nut, I need to get it. On the other side I got it so it was almost falling off, and then wound that up, and I've still got, that much I can go up. And I guess on spring rate, you know, it's a kind of, just because you're going this much on a spring doesn't mean that that's how much lift or drop you've got. It's kind of, you know, spring rates and whatnot. You know, moving 10 mil on a spring might give you 30 mil drop in the car. So first I need to pull off the disc brakes. These are actually Volks conversion disc brakes from John Sherman up there. I've used a couple of sets of his disc brakes. I'm happy with them. Haven't had any issues with them so far. So I've got to pull these off, and you can see here the issue. One of the issues I had when assembling this was I can't actually wind these nuts all the way up. I run out of thread, and there's a thing, you know, with long snouts and short snouts, and early cars have long ones and late ones. One of the two, I can't remember. I'm not an encyclopedia of this stuff. I just know that there is a thing. And you can, sometimes when you're buying them off John, he'll give you a little adapter bush that goes on there. These to me look like longs. I don't think they are shorts, but I'm still missing enough thread to actually tighten this thing up. So I'm thinking in the other ones, there was actually an extra little bush inside that sat on the back of the bearing, and I think that might be, you know, what I'm missing, and that actually pushes the disc out, which gives me a little bit of a widening of the track. I did that on the other side. I didn't fit the disc brake back up again, so it's kind of going to be a bit of a, you know, which way. There's multiple ways you can fit these discs, so as in the plates that hold them on there. So all of that and more I'm just about to do. First I just need to take off this whole assembly here, just the 2 bolts there. They're 14s, so I'll pull them off, and then we'll pull the disc off and then see if this one is missing that little bush. So these are the disc brake mounting plates that come with, you know, the kit. They come with multiple different positions you can mount them. Mine need to be mounted like that, and I'm thinking, see how they have that recess in there? Because I'm going to be pushing the hub out. The disc was already not quite centered on in here. It was already out a bit too far. So I'm thinking if I reverse these and that recess is on the back, it might just give me enough room to push these wheels out the amount I need them. Anyway, I figure while I'm here, I'll pull this retainer off, flip that plate around, and then see, you know, if that does the trick. Well, yeah, that's definitely not going to work because they're, you know, he's got this one marked as right, and I had it fitted on the right, but I didn't think I had it fitted on the holes he said to have it fitted on, or did I? Yeah, maybe I did. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to flip right for left and hope that works. I guess there's only one way to find out. I'm going to pull the whole other side apart and do that. It's just, I figure it's the only way this is ever going to work, so hey, I may as well give it a shot. So this is that little spacer that it was on these axles in those arms over there, those trailing arms. So I don't know if it needs them or not, but I'm thinking that seems to be the issue. These discs now, when I put them on, come on, one-handed, if I can. Oh. They're now the right distance. I meant to have a washer in there, which I don't, but that's okay for now. They now give it, you know, the nut is actually able to tighten up and line up with one of the holes, you know, so I can torque the thing up properly. Whereas before I had like a good gap between there. So now I haven't actually taken that plate off there. I was just going to see, before I go to all that trouble, will it actually fit, you know, without doing it. I guess I got a little carried away there, but yeah, no, I reversed the plates and everything went back together, which is good. I mean, you know, if it works, is it wrong? I guess. I've set the camber on these by turning those holes all the way to, can you see them 3 holes there? Basically, you just got to wind that up. I've dropped that as much as I possibly can. Tightened up those nuts that weren't tight before. And put the guard on too. So I figured while we're at it, we may as well get the guards on and actually have a look at the thing. So, righto, I'm going to put this wheel on and we'll drop it on the ground and see what we've done. So I guess we'll start with, you know, that is just right. I realised that there's a rear toe adjustment. So by winding the heim joint in and out, it pushes the front wheel, you know, back and forward, and also, I guess, gives it the, you know, the toe. And this one's set a bit out and that one's set a bit in, so they're not quite sitting where they need to be. And I guess I'll play with that at a later date. But, you know, yes, could it go lower? Yes, it could. But overall, it's not sitting bad. I guess my big question is now, and look, this is going to be a short video because this is where I'm going to leave it, but I'm going to leave you guys with, you know, help a fella out, like help me out. I'm a bit I'm perplexed. I never thought I would say this, but you know, I'm a little perplexed on which way to go, because my original thoughts on this car were, you know, air ride, all the rest of it, and this, you know, pretty happy with that. Got to put the bonnet, sometimes without the bonnet on you can't see the actual shape, and this has really given us a look at what she looks like. But now I'm kind of maybe thinking, this, I mean, it's not bad. Yeah, it's got to come down in the back a little, and it needs you know, running boards. But how are we feeling about that? You know, it gives it that racy kind of look. Or then, of course, we got this side, which looks like that. And on that note, I guess I'll just catch you all later. This is Das, signing out. Catch you all next time.